Planning Commission for the City of El Dorado, Kansas, the September 22nd, 2022 edition. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Fellers.
Present.
Commissioner Fischetti.
Here.
Commissioner Heckler.
Here.
Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Leeson. Commissioner Long. Commissioner Nichols.
Here.
Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Watson. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Shivers. Everyone had a chance to review the minutes from the March 3rd, 2022 meeting. That was only 6 months ago. We're overwhelmed. We must be exhausted. Everyone had a chance to review those minutes? Any adjustments? If none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to accept the minutes as they are.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, minutes are approved. Moving on to new business. Item number 1, case number 22-04-REZ. Public hearing for the consideration of a request to rezone approximately 5.38 acres at the north end of North Kinder Drive from AR Agricultural Residential District to R1 Low Density Residential District. Mr. Shivers, would you present the request, please?
Sure. So I've got the map up here. The property is that green, we'll call it a polygon there on the right. That's identified by the subject property tab. It is just north of the north end of Kinder Drive. As of today, the current zoning is AR Agricultural Residential. That allows uses such as livestock, crops, campgrounds, parks and recreation, single-family dwellings at very, very low densities, as well as large animal veterinary services. This property is currently outside city limits, and anytime you have a piece of property that sole use and purpose is agriculture, and it is outside city limits, our zoning ordinance does not apply. Another important part of the current zoning is that its minimum lot size is 40 acres. We typically see this all around El Dorado for the 3-mile range that we have jurisdiction. The proposed zoning is R1 Low Density Residential. We regularly refer to this as single-family residential. As you can see on there, it allows single-family dwellings, in-home daycares, and parks and recreation by right. So those don't need anything special. The second part there is what you would need. So if you have the R1 zoning and a special use permit, which would mean a return to this board for recommendation and approval by City Commission. Eligible uses are accessory apartments, which is a second home, educational institutions, golf courses and country clubs, public assembly venues, which are typically churches and neighborhoods, as well as cemeteries and mausoleums. You'll notice the minimum lot size on this zoning, which we have across most of the city, is 8,000 square feet. The reason we're here today is because the applicant, Mr. Cody Kinder, is looking to subdivide that northern parcel for himself to build a home. Under AR, to create a new lot, you would need a minimum 40-acre lot. And so what we are doing tonight is looking at rezoning that to R1 so that he can continue the process of creating a formal lot there. Here's our future land use map. We have known for a long time that our best avenue of residential growth is going to be to the north. I've marked with the black arrow the approximate location of this property. All the yellow on there is proposed future land uses of low density residential. The brown there to the west, that is bordered on the west side of the brown area as West Main Street. So that's called neighborhood mixed use. So low density commercial kind of neighborhood services as well as a mix of residential uses. Whereas that yellow is going to be primarily your single family housing. And that's bordered on the east side by the railroad line that is in the area, as well as the Corps of Engineers property and the lake to the east. As the city continues to expand northward, I thought it might be also helpful to see a few of the projects over the last 20 years that have been, preliminary plans have been submitted. On the lower left there, off of McCollum and just east of North Main, we have the Banks Willite addition. So that was the final plat of that. That large square there actually was part of a preliminary plat that shows a second phase completing that whole area with residential. Likewise, just to the east of there and east of Country Club Lane, that second box to the right, there's been some preliminary plans there. I think that's about 2013 that shows some more expansion in that area, single family residential in your traditional single family layout. To give you an idea, it's a little difficult to see, but these were some of those plats that were submitted showing kind of the future right-of-way extensions, some lot sizes. And as you can see to the far east, I've put in there the proposed plat for Mr. Kinder's addition. We are not hearing that tonight, but the rezoning is part of that process. So as you can see, the plans we've been reviewing over the last 20 years are for more small lots, single-family lots, whereas over here on the right where we had the Bookout rezoning and the Kinder one, we're looking at some large lots with the possibility of a single home on them. So with that being said, this proposed zoning, in our view, is compatible with the area. As you saw in the first maps, almost the entire area is currently zoned R1 single-family residential or low-density residential. Single-family is consistent with all the current development in the area, as well as it is what we expect to see in the future and had been planning for many decades as far as infrastructure, our water sewer capacities in the area, as well as our road extensions. So the City of El Dorado does support the rezoning request. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Roger Cutzinger up to represent the applicant and to tell you a little bit more about it.
Roger Cutzinger, Savoy County Land Surveyors. I'm here with Mr. Cody Kinder tonight, who's the owner of this property. And at this point, he's simply wanting to get this rezoned. It's adjacent to our other R1s and it's adjacent to the city limits. And he's wanting to build a new home up there. As Jay pointed out, there is a proposed plat of 3 lots. Or one for his sister, one for his father, and his own. And then that would make Kinder Drive be extended to the north to join his property. And I did talk to the township people about whether or not they were going to require a road. And they said until there was other properties developed to the west of this, they would simply just want the right-of-way. And in the future, we could build a road. So he could tie into it with a driveway to his new home. And also, Cody indicated to me that he wanted to tie in with city water, and we've been discussing that with the city on what he had to do that. Any questions I might be able to answer?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to add one thing I had skipped over. I had noted that this is outside city limits. So by agreement with Butler County, this is a joint jurisdictional area. So every rezoning or special use permit request we get is also reviewed by the Butler County Commission. So this case went to them on Tuesday morning this week, and they did vote to support this case. Now, by agreement, their role is that they review it from the angle of, does this meet their long-term plans? And so they voted that it does.
Thank you. Any other items to present the request? Okay. With that, I'd like to open the public hearing for this case. We ask that you state your name and your address for the record. So at this time, anyone wishing to speak regarding this case, please come forward. Not all at once, though.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission. Name is John Grange, 2515 Casey Court. Appreciate the opportunity to come up here and speak today. I wrote a letter on behalf of some neighbors in the area that are affected by this and received letters from the city saying the meeting was going to be held. Have you all had an opportunity to read my letter?
Yes.
Okay. Was that letter presented to you today or a few days ago?
A few days ago.
Okay, very good. I appreciate that. What we're talking about here is an area that, in that letter, I invited you all to come out and take a look at the property. As far as I know, nobody took me up on that.
I drove by and drove
You did?
through. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Steve. We have issues with this particular request for the zoning changed simply because of the beauty of the area, and the area is used exclusively by us as a source of relaxation. You have deer, you have turkey, you have wildlife passing through the area. In times past, the high school cross-country team used to run a loop around there, and we felt it was a very good use of the property. It was serene, it was quiet, and it had a piece of the tall grass prairie in it still. And it's still there today. We hate to see houses be brought into the area. We really were not, as a neighborhood, weren't invited to understand what was going to be taking place. A neighbor, I would have thought, would have come up to us and said, this is what I'm planning, what my consideration is, and I understand the use of the area today is one thing, but I want to put a house there. We never received that. Work was begun on that property as far as clearing it, clearing trees and doing some site preparation without any notification to the city or the county that something was going to be taking place. Some of the trees that were cut down on the USD 490 property without their permission. Once this was noticed up, then the city became involved and explained to Cody, this is the process we've got to take, and that's what brings us here today. At this point in time, no more than we know, I've reduced to writing in my letter, and I would ask if you have any questions of me. I'm speaking, I guess, for myself mainly, but as you mentioned, there wasn't a rush to come up here and talk in the first place. And I understand that, I get that. I will tell you two things are happening tonight. Your acoustics in here are horrible, and my hard of hearing's kicking in real bad. So I couldn't really understand what's going on. The plan tonight would be for you to hear our opposition to this, and that's what we ask you to do, would be to deny the request for rezoning. If you have any specific questions of me or any of the other people that have come to the meeting, I'm sure they'll be glad to handle the answers themselves. But I won't belay it. I put the letter out so we could have an idea of what we were looking at. 20 years ago, I served on the same commission that you're on today, and the experience was really pretty enlightening. It allows you to see and try to understand how the process works. And so I'm just saying we would rather see a plan, see an idea what was going on, how we're going to get utilities to the property, how it's going to be affected on our personal lives, as well as the livelihood of what's happening out there with the wildlife that's available today. It's a little piece of heaven. My property is right on the county-city property line, and it's just a beautiful place to sit and spend the evening. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
I think the only question I have on the front end, and then I think we'll let the public hearing and let others who wish to speak
Sure.
run its course, and then we'll work through discussion and questions. So thank you for your patience there. Would it be possible for you to come around the corner here and show us on this screen that you can't see where your property is, Mr. Grange?
Yeah. Oh, that's a nice picture. The area we're talking about is right here.
Mm-hmm.
My property is about right in here, that spot. But the property we're talking about is this.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Excuse me, stand for it.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Others who wish to speak, please come forward.
My name is Tom Kinder, 2540 Kinder Drive. I'm Cody's father. I didn't come here to speak tonight, but after I hear all this, I need to speak. I bought that land 35, 40 years ago, and I've tried to keep it as nice as I can. I've tried to improve it as much as I can. I was a biology teacher, so I love animals, and I take care of the animals. I take care of the deer. I had deer in my yard when I left tonight. I take care of the deer. I built the pond. I take care of the turkeys. There's not any reason why I wanted my daughter and my son both to have houses out there, and so that's where we divided up. They bought their spots, and I wanted them each to have a single house. I didn't want any other houses out there. I developed all the other part behind me years ago, and I still own 4 acres in front of me that I left to, it's a wilderness. I've really tried to keep it nice, to keep the grass natural and keep it as nice as I can. We've worked really hard on it, and there's no reason why 2 houses in there with my children out there is going to hurt anything. I don't understand that. I'm really surprised. And if I can answer any questions if you have any questions of me.
Well, I guess I would ask the same question of you. Can you show us your residence on this map?
No, I live. Oh, gosh.
That spot marked rezoned December 2020 is the pond.
I'm lost.
All right, so Kinder Drive ends right here. I
Okay.
believe this is your.
Yeah, right here. That's my lot right
Okay, thank you very much.
here. Anything else I can answer?
That'll be all for now.
I'm sorry, I have to.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Others wishing to speak, come forward, please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I am a teacher in Wichita School District. We moved from Wichita to El Dorado 2 years ago. My name is Tracy Catlin. I'm nervous. Tracy
right.
Catlin, 2520 KC
Okay,
Court.
deep breath, exhale, you'll be just
I'm
fine.
not used to talking to the adults. It's the kids.
Well, I can assure you, you're not talking to all of us up here,
17, 18-year-olds.
so don't worry about that a bit.
Okay. My name is Tracy, and my husband Dale and I moved to El Dorado from Wichita 2 years ago. And when we were inspecting the property, considering the property, Mr. Bookout, Kurt Bookout, was the one who said nothing would be built behind us. In our previous home, the area had just become so overcrowded, and so this new property was very just heaven, really. And so the idea that no one would be behind us was pretty much the driving force that made our decision. And then I wrote Mr. Shivers about a year ago when Mr. Bookout was going to also consider rezoning. And so we were against that also. And Mr. Shivers explained in an email of the cost prohibitiveness of getting utilities out there, that this wouldn't affect the pond that was out there, but it was still like, but it's still zoned. Somebody could move back there, but then things fell through. And so then this new opportunity for Cody came up, and the idea that a house is being built back there. The wildlife is phenomenal. And that's what that romance of, we're sort of in the country, we're in the city too, but we're right there at the edge. Moving from a crowded area to a wild area has been a dream of ours, and just don't want to see that gone. And if house and more buildings come in and the deer go away, the turkeys go away, of course we'll still have our little livelihood with our home, but the reason why we moved to El Dorado would be gone. So, on the map, If I could show you, I think I know where we are on this map. Do you need me to show that to you?
Yes, please. Are you in the northeast corner of
You're in
the cul-de-sac?
Cul-de-sac. I think we're here, but it could be here. This map is confusing me. So
That's McCollum.
That's,
we call it when we go to the left there.
Okay.
This is our area, our house. You know, the house itself is in the city, and then we go out on the deck, we're in the county.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Tracy, I do have a question. So you mentioned that Kurt Bookout said, do you have anything in writing?
There was, well, it wasn't part of our contract moving into the house, and of course, we should have had that written out.
So you don't have something in writing saying
No.
there wouldn't be built?
No, sir.
Okay, okay.
Okay. And we did receive your letter.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
My husband wrote that.
I won't tell anybody.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay.
I corrected his grammar and his punctuation.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. Any other questions for me?
Not right now. Thank you. Others who wish to speak, please come forward. Going once? Going twice? Okay. Well, seeing no others to speak, I recommend that we close the public hearing for this case. Next item is discussion by the Planning Commission. And that, as far as I'm concerned, very well can and should include questions for agent of the applicant or for those who are interested in answering questions who may have spoken. I'd be happy to lead off then, if nobody wants to jump in.
I have a question, I guess.
Okay.
Maybe for Jake. To take it from an AR to an R1, that's considered one lot, right? So only one house could be built?
Correct. They are also going through the plating process, which would formally create one new lot. That zoning allows one home per one lot. For the traditional subdivision, you would use the plating process to create a number of lots along with the road right-of-ways, utility easements, and things of that nature. The proposal we have, and that we've been working with Cody since early this year, has been for one lot, one home. Now, in all fairness, when we consider rezonings, we're looking at the land uses, okay? That doesn't mean that in 5 years, if the project's kind of going slow, and maybe it does become a subdivision, that goes for any residential zoning we deal with. There's a range of options that could take place. So sometimes we have a specific proposal on the table for rezoning, it can change.
Does it come back here then again for that, or no?
So the rezoning allows the range of land uses, and in this case, it's just single family. That means it could be higher density, it could be one house in the future. For a different example, when we do commercial, that's a wide range of land uses. So you must consider stores like Walmart, fast food drive-through, restaurants, car sales, all that wide range of things. So just to put it in perspective.
Okay. Other questions?
Jay, is the red line around all the R1, or most of the R1, is that indicating the city's boundary?
That is correct. So that is the city limits. This is a pocket that is outside city limits. To the upper left of the screen, this is an old aerial. That is the new elementary school up there. We did the special use permit for that a couple years ago. The large rectangle just to the north of this is also school district property.
So it's the middle school, not the elementary school?
No, that's Grandview Elementary.
Oh, that's
New
Grandview,
Grandview,
okay.
And so at that time, we have since changed our policies, but anytime the city annexes property into city limits, it would automatically go from whatever zoning was outside, typically AR, automatically to R1, no hearings, nothing else. Because we have the unique joint jurisdiction outside city limits, we took that policy out to give us the ability to decide what it comes in as or to keep it AR. So at this point, yes, it is outside city limits. The red line is the city limits line.
Is the only property in question right above Tom Kinder's R1?
Correct.
Or is it the other AR over there to the west?
Just this one right here.
Just that one?
Yeah, and it should be highlighted in your packet a little bit better than this map.
Right.
Yep, just right here sandwiched between here. On the plat, this area that's not colored will be dedicated as right away for Kinder Drive. So that'll be separation there.
Mr. Cutsinger, would you mind coming forward? I'd like to ask about any recorded deed restrictions or covenants for this
The
property.
only covenants, excuse me, the only covenants I found were on Kinder First Edition, and they were made in August of 1999, and they ran for 20 years. And unless they've been renewed recently, I haven't found that. There is the option, they can renew them for 10-year increments. But that was the only restrictions that I found.
And am I correct in presuming that those deed restrictions would not apply to this subject property?
Right, it simply said Kinder First Edition.
Okay. Is Kinder First Edition essentially at the city limits,
The area
Jay?
that's there off McCollum Road,
Okay,
and those lots to the north of it,
okay,
okay?
thank you.
I have a question. If the Kinder Drive, if they get that right of use easement there, are they then allowed, does that open up the upper R1 box for development? Because that would create a drive to it.
It could in the future. So under the current proposal, the right-of-way would be dedicated, but to the township. The city's not planning to annex this right now. There is no need for an extension of major utilities in that investment. Hypothetical, the school district had someone who wanted to develop it. This would be one of a couple options to provide right-of-way access and utility access. But once again, until you have a developer, you have a proposal, you don't know what your needs are, and then you'll start going from there, looking at annexation, utility expansion, things of that nature. So it depends. So with the R1 though, all we know with certainty is that it would be single family, not duplex, not multifamily, not commercial, industrial, just be single family homes.
Jay, in the rezoned 2020 section there where Tom Kinder's house
Yes.
is that the only home on that property?
Yep, so to go back in time, yes, that was when Mr. Kinder had, I believe, the transaction, Kurt Bookout, his son-in-law had gotten some of the land. So in order to split that, we did the administrative lot split process, where you can take one lot and turn it into two. So Mr. Bookout applied for the rezoning. His intent was to build a single home on there. And so we had that meeting, that rezoning was approved. And so at this point, now it's Mr. Cody Kinder looking to build a house. He needs the zoning also to create a smaller lot size, less than 40 acres. He's doing the plating process because our ordinance allows you to take one lot and turn it into two administratively. But if you're creating any more than that, or you need right-of-way dedications or other things, you have to plat it, which will come to you guys. And that plat will also show the Kinder residence and Bookout's property as well.
But Mr. Bookout has not built a home on,
Not that I'm aware of. His intent was to, but I don't believe he's built anything.
Couple of basic procedural pieces. Mr. Shivers, I trust that public notification of this hearing were sent out to adjacent property owners as required.
Yes, sir. In fact, I had actually advertised over a month ago. I had initially made a mistake because of the city limits. I had initially assumed it was inside city limits. My initial date would be last month. I sent out notices out to 200 feet. I caught my error, realized it was outside city limits. So by law, we have to send them out to 1,000 feet. So we re-advertised for this month with all the notices going out to 1,000 feet to every property owner.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Shivers, are you aware of any citations or stop work orders for the subject property?
I'm not. I also read the letters. I do know that early this year, Mr. Kinder did contact us about what he needed to do. At that point, we started laying out the process for plating, rezoning, things that he needs to do to get to the point where he can get a building permit. So I myself, I'm not aware of any code violations or illegal activity.
Okay. Has the city been contacted by the school district regarding the allegations of work, et cetera, on their R1 property?
We have not. We did send them the normal notices. Sometimes we do get contacted by the school district. This time we did not hear after either notice.
Okay. I did take the liberty of reaching out to the school district and spoke with Director of Fiscal and Support Services. I also spoke, well, I believe that person spoke with the Director of Buildings and Grounds, and they are not aware of any disruption to their property, whether it's trees or clearing or otherwise.
Well, I also am familiar with that property, and I did recently go down there and take a look, and I didn't see anything that looked obvious of lots of clearing. I'm sure there was maybe something, but I didn't notice any big changes myself.
Do we have any indication from the school district for their future plans for that?
I am not aware of any plans at this point. If there are some very, very, very preliminary plans, it'd probably be at a higher city manager type level in some of those meetings.
Mr. Shivers, do you happen to know the restrictions, if any, by the county or by the state regarding the cutting of trees on private property?
I'm not aware of any restrictions. I can speak with certainty for the city. There's no restrictions on cutting your own trees down. I can't speak for the county, but within city limits, there's no regulations.
I'm certainly not aware of any permits that are required to be pulled. Same question regarding clearing, grading, et cetera.
Large-scale grading would require some special stormwater studies and things of that nature. Typical grading for a house-sized site would require nothing special.
Other questions? Two, three, four, five, six, seven, 8, 9. One of the letters we received that was shared with us had some concern about the cost of infrastructure. Talk a little bit about the planning process, what it means to dedicate right-of-way and or initiate any improvements regarding utilities, streets, et cetera, and if you're able, could you talk a little bit about how those costs are borne?
I can speak to some of those options. So as I mentioned briefly earlier, it really depends on the project, the layout, the terrain, what is needed. As I mentioned, the current proposal with the current plat does not require any extension of roadways or utilities. If a hypothetical larger project was, that's when we would, at the plating process, have those discussions at the city, determining what level of water, sewer, and roadway needs that project would need. Go through the quoting process, look at how much it's going to cost. As far as how it is spread, our city engineer could not make it tonight to cover how that is exactly done. But that's kind of the process that we go through. It's project dependent. Not every project has the same needs. And as I said before, the city has water mains, sewer mains, stormwater infrastructure, and roadways already for additional construction in this area.
Is the preliminary plat and I recognize it's not been formally applied or formally submitted to us for review yet. Do you know if there's an intention to consider and plat that right away? Maybe Mr. Coatsinger could talk to that if you'd like, please.
Yes, we've started the plat, and it would extend the right-of-way up this time, and that's all it would extend. The street would not be built until there was further subdivisions adjacent to it or new homes built somewhere. With the R1 over, the 3 lots we're proposing only allowed 1 home per lot. And one of them is Tom Kender's existing house. So at the most, we'd have 2 more out there.
Okay. Thank you. Other questions? Discussion?
I am sympathetic to not in my backyard type of thing. I get that. It's everywhere. I understand people don't like change. I do think that the comprehensive plan for El Dorado talks about housing. I looked in my very thick book tonight about this, and I came up with 2 sentences, and this is why I'm going to vote for approval. It says zoning decisions must be based on the best interest of the entire community. And again, while sympathetic, I understand, and if I was there, I would be in your seats. I am going to be voting for this tonight.
As I look at this, what I'm seeing is that this piece of property is surrounded by R1 on each side, both north and south. I'm not sure how many acres that R1 piece, both of those R1 pieces that remain in the county, I'm not sure how many acres are there, but I'm going to guess it's probably upwards of 10, 8 or 10. I'm looking at that and appreciating that seems like a pretty remarkable buffer between the subject property and those that are here in very respectful opposition to this rezone request. I'm having a hard time appreciating the hardship. I'm sure that entire residential development to the south was not very long ago, few decades ago, the same pasture land, tall grass prairie land that this subject property is. I'm also both personally and professionally inclined to always lean on private property rights in this country, and certainly, as I said here, there's a rightful and deliberate owner of that property, and I'm having a hard time appreciating that R1 is an unusual request for that property owner to enjoy as part of their ownership of that property. So those are my thoughts. Others?
I guess I understand why the neighbors would be concerned with being left in the dark. I mean, you have this beautiful lane, look out across, people are tearing down trees. I would for sure send a letter out and did everything I could to try to get answers, so I get that. And I guess the only thing I would have to say is if this is passed, I hope Cody respects, like the land, the wildlife as much as he can. It sounds like his dad done all he could, and I would hope that Cody would, respect that as well. And, I can't predict the future or anything like that, but I'm just going off what's here, and I'm with you. I mean, I don't think it's a off-the-wall request, no.
Gentlemen, thoughts?
Well, I know this isn't a plat or anything, but I would assume that they're gonna put the two houses along Kinder Drive anyways. I don't see anyone's view being obstructed. I mean, logically, that's probably where you'd put them. So, I agree with you guys.
Do Kinders own the property on the west of that Kinder Drive as well, or?
There's a sliver of land. I think Tom said 4-ish acres.
Oh, so
There is
the bulk of it, somebody else owns that.
That is correct, yeah. It's a thin sliver here.
I guess my overall concern on it is coming from the perspective of somebody who lives in the county, purposely bought in the county, so I could be in the county. I see to the west of Kinder Drive, an awful lot of existing roads that are purposely just dead end, waiting to go into that other section of county AR. And fast forward 10 years from now, it's probably gonna have a subdivision out there. It's surrounded by R1 now. But what's being proposed over there north, or I guess it'd be north of Tom Kinder's property. It looks like the lot sizes are gonna be so darn big that it's not gonna be the same as the houses, just what the residents that live along Kinder and McCollum are existing in right now, because their house is in a normal, in-town size lot situation, but everything to the north of them, directly north of them, it looks like it's gonna be very, very, very large lots, and nobody's gonna wanna mow all that anyway, so that I don't foresee that the wildlife situation would change much. It's not, growing up there, I don't know why in the world somebody like Cody Kinder would wanna clear cut, remove all the tall grass or wildlife habitat. That's part of the reason why you'd wanna build out there. So I'm kinda struggling with that too, and again, with what,
I can answer that if you want.
well, come on,
I try to look them up.
sure.
Cody Kinder. I'm owner of the property. I had a clear cutting company come out, and for fireproof purposes, I had cleared my property back. My 5 acres was about 3.5 acres with all the growth coming from everywhere else. The fire danger is very high, as you know. The grass is 4 feet, 3 foot high. So I trimmed all that down last year. I cut my property down. I talked to the school. At first, I did not talk to the school, and I cleared their land up, but we had, my family over the last 45 years has put building materials, garbage, trash, stuff that didn't belong up there in those trees and everything. And I couldn't get it out. I was trying to clean it up because it was ours. It was our mess, but it was on the school's property. So it was pipes and bricks and stuff like that. And so that's why I had this kid come in, and with the machine, he cleared my property from my property line, and he got up there around the school, just like that 1 acre right north of my property. And so that I could pull the trash out, clean it up, and then I had the hay baled, and that's what happened with that. But I cleaned it back. My parents lived right there, and the fire danger, as you well know, is not good. And if that field north there would catch fire, there would have been problems. And the overgrowth coming in onto my property just was unacceptable. And I think if Steve's been out, if you've been out there and looked at it, it's done correctly. And so that's why I did that. But
Yeah, in my conversation with the school district, they did acknowledge that there was debris, et cetera, that
I
had collected
talked to
over the
them.
years, and they were remarkably satisfied.
I talked to them, got the okay, made sure that was all right, because I still got some trimming and some cutting to do up there. they're all for it.
So, okay.
So that's the skinny on that. But if you have any other questions, I'll answer.
Okay. Thank you. Any other items, questions, discussion? If none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to recommend approval of case number 2204 REZ, an application by Cody Kinder to rezone 5.38 acres at the north end of Kinder Drive from AR Agriculture Residential District to R1 Low Density Residential District for reasons stated in the staff recommendation and heard at this public hearing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comment? Okay, Mr. Shivers, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Fellers,
Yes.
Commissioner Fischetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Hackler,
Yes.
Commissioner Nichols,
Yes.
Chairman Stewart.
Yes?
The motion to recommend approval passes 5-0.
Mr. Shivers, do you happen to know when this case will go to the city commission for their decision?
It will be October 16th. It is the, 17th, the third Monday in October.
Okay. And has the commission changed the time of their meetings?
To 5:30.
It's a 5:30 start?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay. With that, we'll move to item number 2, case number 21-01-PLAT, consideration of the final plat of Deer Run Second Edition. Mr. Shivers, present a request, please.
Yes, sir. As you guys may remember, last year we reviewed and approved the Deer Run Edition plat. That is out west by Boyer Road and West 3rd. So this plat, Deer Run Second Edition, is a replat of that same property, and it fixes one discrepancy in the legal description. I'll step forward here. The east property line there was in it was 3 feet off, and that has been caught and corrected. And so what I have on the screen is the same plat. The only 2 changes is this yellow area. That boundary along those lots 6, 7, 8, and 9 has been moved west 3 feet, or to the left. And then on the lower portion, there's a blue area. The city requested an additional water easement, and that is what that blue area shows down there at the end of lot 11. Everything else remains the same. There's the same number of lots. The right-of-way stays the same. There's no other new easements. So we are just updating Deer Run Edition. And Mr. Will Clevenger is here tonight from Garber, and hopefully if you have any questions, he can help answer that. Mr. Clevenger did this plat. Did the right way to say it?
Good evening. Yes, my name is Will Clevenger with Garver, the land surveyor, who made a mistake on that. Our title commitment didn't reflect that 3 feet there on the east side that had been previously deeded to the neighbors. And so after GIS had caught that mistake, we wanted to get this corrected and brought to it just as Jay had mentioned it tonight. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. So help me understand, essentially, the previously approved plat was not formally recorded at the county.
It was formally recorded.
It was formally
Yes.
recorded. So now we are essentially replatting.
Yes.
I mean-
This is a replat, correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Or at least lots 6, 7, 8, 9, and 11.
Yep.
Okay.
The water easement was originally going to be recorded by separate instruments, and then we realized we were going to replat it. We went ahead and put it on the plat.
Okay.
And so the neighbors are aware they got that 3 feet.
I don't know that they've actually been reached out to, but it
But
was-
they're going to get 3 additional feet.
they're not going to lose the property that they already owned.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, they didn't get it back.
They never lost it. The previous property owner, before our client bought it, their deed said that they owned everything that we had on the face of the plat. But that deed that they were provided was incorrect and did not reflect the 3 feet that had been previously deeded away. So it was just missed in the chain of title.
Well, hopefully their purchase agreement was based on a per acre cost, which means maybe they got a rebate. Okay. Any other questions regarding this request? Okay. We do not need a public hearing, so we move to discussion by the Planning Commission. Thank you, Mr. Clevenger. Any concerns? Anything stand out? Okay, seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the final plat of Deer Run, second edition as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Shivers, would you conduct a roll call vote, please?
Chairman Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Nichols,
Yes.
Commissioner Heckler,
Yes.
Commissioner Fischetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Fellers.
Yes.
All right, the motion to approve passes 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to item 3, case number 22-01-SUP, public hearing for the consideration of a request for a special use permit for an 8-foot fence at 1859 North Terrace Road. That's 8 foot tall. Mr. Shivers, presentation of request, please.
I would love to start off by saying that unfortunately, if Mr. Nichols, the applicant, steps down, we will not have a quorum to hear this case. We would need one more member present.
Mr. Shivers, is it possible we could get a commissioner on the phone and do it that way, or not? When we did some Zoom type of stuff,
And we had time to plan and prepare for that stuff too.
is somebody phoning in, would that work?
It's possible, but it would depend on how long you guys would want to sit around while I tried to get someone to answer.
Can I make that call?
I'm fine with waiting.
Do you, it's up to
Shall
you
I-
guys. That means I'm running back to my office and getting everybody's phone numbers and seeing who wants to answer.
Well, I do have Commissioner Long's.
He's at an event tonight, something with his grandchildren.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he won't mind being interrupted at all.
Okay,
He told me he wanted to be here, in fact, but
okay. I just wanted to expedite this along if we could.
I agree with you.
Well, it seems that the prudent thing to do is to table this until our next meeting. So I would entertain a motion as such.
We may not even need to table it. It might just be that we can't hear this item tonight because Tony can't even vote on it. He
Okay?
shouldn't vote on it, excuse me.
Then
We'll just
the,
steer clear of any issues here.
then the chairman will declare that due to lack of a quorum,
Yes.
no, you did not let the whole team down, Tony.
All right.
Due to lack of a quorum, we are unable to consider item number 3, the special use permit request as in the agenda. So with that, we'll move on. I trust that will be rescheduled for
Next month.
next month.
Yep. I think I told you earlier, I didn't know if we'd have a meeting next month. We'll move that one forward.
Well, and as you can see, the public hearing was going to be pretty lively.
It was.
So, all right, well, appreciate your patience, Tony. With that, Mr. Shivers, item 4, old business, please.
No old business.
Mr. Shivers, item 5, staff items, please.
I think we have one thing to speak about. Steve, would you like to discuss what you mentioned this morning about start times?
Oh, yeah. Is this under the other? Are we into the other category?
We're on
This is
staff
the
items.
Okay,
adjournments
staff
after
items, there we
this.
go.
It's
So,
speak now or speak
yeah,
during
there we go.
adjournment.
So, seems that the city is changing multiple hours on different things and opening up and closing, and so, we had the idea that maybe we should change our hours from 6:30 to maybe making them earlier, perhaps.
Start
And-
time?
Yeah, so I didn't know if you guys would be interested in starting at 5:30 instead of 6:30. I think the city commission now goes at 5:30. Most city workers start at 7:30. Go a little longer and get out Friday afternoon, and so just make it a little more convenient for everybody, so we have more of our evenings.
Any concern about making this, I guess, recommendation or adjustment with 5 of 9 seated here?
I'll speak to the code briefly. After Steven mentioned it this morning, I did some research. There is no hard set time in our bylaws, the zoning ordinance, or our muni code. It merely says that it is up to the commission to determine meeting dates and times. And so I also checked with our city clerk, so to change the time, all we would need is just a simple majority and motion by you guys to agree to a time that's more suitable.
Okay. Any objection if Mr. Shivers arranges for an email and consensus be reached by at least an answer on consensus by all 9?
I would
Do you have to
prefer
reach
that
out?
personally. I mean, I can speak for myself and that's it. And I stay at my shop until it's time to come to this meeting and I just leave work and
Yeah,
come over here. But I can leave work at 5:30 and come over here too.
yeah.
So, and I don't wanna put words in the mouth of Mr. Long or Gerald or anybody else, Frank. I mean, I don't know what their situation is,
Yeah.
so.
Sure.
I like the idea. I'm ready to jump on board and certainly interested in making it happen, but I think with 4 members not here tonight, they likely deserve a heads up and a chance to give input, so.
By the way, I would be in favor of that, because Thursday night football.
You could go about it a couple ways. If you guys were to do a motion that says, contingent on the other 4 agreeing to it, we could change the time. I can reach out to everyone else and then do a vote next meeting if everyone's on board. Have a couple ways to go about it. It's up to you guys.
Yeah, and I think, I'm thinking back, if my memory serves me, these meetings used to start at 7, and I think that had to do with at least one member who commuted from Wichita and appreciated the time to not only complete his commute, but not feel like he was doing a combat role out in the parking lot to hustle in here and meet. So what I'd hate is for one of our members to have a conflict and feel like they're getting shut out either from the decision or from the ability to serve.
That's fair enough.
Okay. All right, are we comfortable with a vote of 5-0 contingent upon the 4 not present agreeing via email correspondence?
I will call a couple of them. A couple of them don't prefer email correspondence, but
Okay.
I'll give a call.
I will strike email from my suggestion. And I'll try to continue to do it as monotone as possible, just so everybody really gets the point hammered home. All right, then please correspond
Will do.
with the other 4 members, and let's make sure they're comfortable with a 5:30 start time.
Will do. I have no other items.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Fullers, for that suggestion. All right. Seeing no other items, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a motion and 2 seconds. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed can stick around as long as they want to. Thank you.